Hi everybody, it's Matt here, your local friendly neighbourhood vestibular migraine sufferer. So apologies I haven't done a video for a while. I obviously did the live one where I caught the train. I've just been really busy with my home life and my work life. But there will be some more live videos coming. There's going to be one about coping with a gig, or as a concert as you guys call it in the States. And it's going to be one about getting yourself back to a busiest place like the pub. So they will come, but today's video is more a reflection really, and it's more one that is going back to my theory of everything, my hypothesis, my theory as to what causes vestibular migraine. So I've done a couple of videos on that before. If you've not watched them, check them out, but probably no need to, because I'm going to fold things into this single video. So this is kind of a video to bring my theory and my developed theory all together into one kind of compact unit. So my theory as to what causes vestibular migraine has not really changed, but it just gets added to and it develops as a hypothesis. So every so often I will do a video where I pull together my theory and tell you what my kind of current theory is as to what's causing it. This develops because obviously you learn more about the condition, you talk to different people, you research, you read stuff, and it kind of builds up that hypothesis that in my case, that I've got in mind. I just want to stress that this is just my theory. This is not me giving any kind of diagnosis. I'm not a doctor. All I'm doing is giving you my idea, my theory as to what causes vestibular migraine based on my experience and the experience of people that I talk to. So I'm going to be using graphics as I do tend to for these theory of everything videos. Physics captain, simple physics, and the graphic this time is going to contain a little friend of ours. We've got a little gingerbread man character to help us talk through what I think is going on. So I'm just going to click my fingers now, and you should be looking at our gingerbread man friend. I haven't given him a name, perhaps we should have done, but I put it together quite quickly, so I actually never thought of his name, but never mind. So what you're looking at here basically is, for me, the first stage of vestibular migraine, the trigger. What is the trigger for vestibular migraine? And my theory has been for quite some time now, and it still is, that it's inflammation in the body. Now, I just want to caveat that with, obviously, a cause to vestibular upset would be some kind of head trauma or damage to the vestibular system in an accident. That's kind of a given, and that can obviously lead to vestibular migraine type symptoms. I've not got it in here. I'm looking more at the vestibular migraine episodes where people haven't had head trauma, which I think is perhaps a little bit more mysterious, and you know, there needs to be more digging as to why it would happen to somebody who's not had head trauma. So just saying that as a caveat. So it's not that I'm ignoring head trauma, and I'm sure there are people who are struggling with vestibular symptoms as a result of that. But this is more looking at non-head trauma as a cause, which, as you can see there from the title, I still believe is a result of inflammation in the body. So what we'll do, we'll work our way up our gingerbread man. So we'll go up from toe to head. This reminds me of something else one can do from toe to head, but I won't go there. I'll keep this clean. So the first thing I've got there with the black arrow at the bottom is hormones. So hormones as a trigger for vestibular migraine, or for inflammation that leads to vestibular migraine. I think so. I don't know an awful lot about hormones, to be honest, but what I do know is that, particularly with women, they do seem to suffer harder, and there are much more. I think there's more women who tend to suffer with vestibular migraine than there are men, and for me that is linked to their hormones. I think some of my vestibular female friends have told me that sometimes they struggle with symptoms at a certain time of the month, which again just tells me that hormones must be playing a part. I don't know whether hormones cause inflammation. I'm not sure. I assume they might do. I'm sure the people who know better than me who can say yes or no, but I've stuck it on there because I do think it is a big player in bringing about vestibular migraine, particularly in girls and women. So that's there. Then we move up slightly. So a key one for me is the bowel. So I've had bowel problems for a long time, actually, since I was about 18. And I think it has been an obvious source of inflammation in my body. I'm not even going to tell you how old I am now, but I've had, trouble with my bowel for over half my life. And it's almost inevitable that will have caused some inflammation in my body, particularly, not saying I have, I don't know if I have or haven't, but if I've got a condition like leaky bowel as a result, where, you know, things are escaping from your bowel that going into your body that your body doesn't want. Your body wants them out, out of the body, hence why it's in the bowel. So that obviously leads to inflammation in the body, and I do think my inflammation has probably come from the bowel and just built up over time, eventually leading to a response in vestibular migraine. So then the next one in green there, so I put it in a snotty green colour because viruses often do mean you will have snot, so that's nice and gruesome for you. So people often do get vestibular migraine if they've had some kind of virus which can upset your vestibular system. It can get in your ear, can't it? You can get earache and things like that. So when I first had vestibular migraine all those years ago, they thought it was a virus. They didn't diagnose vestibular migraine, they just thought I had a virus, and the virus lingered, causing these weird symptoms. Viruses obviously cause inflammation to the body, and it might be that it's not the virus itself that upsets the vestibular symptoms, it's actually how the body deals with the virus that upsets the vestibular system, then causes symptoms. I think I mixed up symptoms and system there. Symptoms obviously totally different to the system. So a virus causes inflammation that then somehow upsets the vestibular system, but we will come on to how I think that happens in a minute. The other side, I'm not going to talk about this too much because I want people to watch this video. So if you watched a previous video of mine, you'll know what I mean by the prick. So I think from speaking to a few people, the prick has caused inflammation in the body, which it naturally will do because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to emulate a virus which causes inflammation. But some people have told me that their vestibular problems started after having the prick. So I think it's only right that I do put it on there just so people are aware. It was not caused me any issues, but I do know it's caused other people issues. But that's not me telling you whether to take it or not. I have no opinion on that whatsoever. Just for the sake of YouTube, if they're sniffing around my videos, sod off, I'm only trying to help people, is my reply to them. So then we come up there, and then we've got neck. So I think the neck is probably much more of an important player in bringing about vestibular issues than perhaps I originally thought. So I've spoken to a lot of people who have vestibular symptoms who also have tight neck, you know, pain in the neck, strange neck, whatever you want to call it. And if you think about it, that obviously is going to cause inflammation in your body. And also, I'm not saying this is the case, but is it a coincidence that the neck is quite close to the vestibular system? So if you are struggling with your neck, could cause issues into the neighbouring region of the body, which is, of course, as you come up the head towards the vestibular system. So neck, for me, I think is a bit like the sort of underdog, really. I think it's if I was a betting man, I'd starting to shift some money onto the neck as being one of the root causes of vestibular issues. But that doesn't mean that I don't back the other ones. And obviously, you know that I do, in my case, think the bowel was a big problem. But neck's going on there definitely causes inflammation. It obviously is inflammation. So that's where we are with that. Then we come up a little bit more, and teeth. So I mentioned teeth because that was mentioned to me quite a few years ago when I was first, well, actually during my second and major chronic phase of vestibular migraine, which was 2019, my chiropractor actually mentioned teeth to me as possible cause of inflammation that then has upset the vestibular system. And I would like to find out more about it, but it's quite hard to do unless you visit the dentist. I did ask one of my dentists about it, and she just looked completely clueless. She looked like I'd spoken Klingon at her or something. But I won't rule it out, and I have spoken to someone very recently who's had issues with her jaw and teeth. Might be a coincidence, but it might not be. But again, if you do have a bad tooth or issue with the tooth, it does cause inflammation in the body. We know that. That's why you get toothache and sometimes abscesses. So definitely worth a mention, could be an issue. So if you've not had your teeth checked, if you are struggling with VM, do go and do that. And then another one I have done a video on before is piercings. So obviously metal in the body can cause inflammation. I don't know an awful lot about it. I don't have any piercings myself, but I put it on there because it does cause inflammation and could be then that inflammation that causes you to get vestibular migraine. And of course, it could be a combo of these things. So in the case of, I don't know, some poor lass, she might have, her hormones might be playing an issue. She may have dodgy bowel. She may also have had a dodgy neck. Those three things put together, then they then build up that inflammation, so it pushes her into a vestibular migraine episode. So I think it is worth just being clear. I'm not. It sometimes can be a combo of these things, not just one. It could be a combo, and I think in my case, you know, I've got the bowel one, and I do have a bit of a dodgy neck. So those two things are probably at play and were certainly bothering me before I got my vestibular migraine episodes. So just keep that in mind. And the top one there I've put is stress so I'm not sure that I've ever been convinced that stress causes vestibular migraine, but I think what stress does is it's like the icing on the cake that pushes you into an episode. So it'll probably be you've got one or more of the other things that cause inflammation, and then stress kind of is the thing that just pushes your body over into an episode of vestibular migraine. Some people who know better than me might be able to tell me stress does cause inflammation in the body. I think it probably does, because it will cause, stress does have physical responses, and one of those often is IBS or a bowel issue, which is then inflammation. So I've got that on there just because it does make sense. So that's stage one. So for me, there's been some kind of inflammation in the body that could come from one or more of these things that then takes us on to stage two. So I should now moved over to a new picture for you, still with our gingerbread friend though, of course. So this stage for me is the inflammation you've got there then causes upset to the central nervous system and or the vestibular system. So I think the central nervous system is obviously really key to our body, isn't it? And when it gets disturbed by something like inflammation, it can cause all sorts of funny things to happen with our body, which I'll come on to in the next picture. So I'm still kind of a big believer that the inflammation upsets the central nervous system, and kind of almost, in some cases, the vestibular migraine is a response to the upset in the central nervous system. I don't know for sure, but that's where my money would go if I was a betting man. But as I'm saying here, I'm not also ruling out that when that inflammation occurs in your body, it can cause upset to the vestibular system as well as or instead of the central nervous system. But I think they're probably so closely interlinked. You don't get punished without duty. Basically, you get an upset to the central nervous system, then it's likely your vestibular system will get disturbed. So stage two for me, inflammation that happens in the body upsets the central nervous system, and as a result, you will get some vestibular disturbance issues, symptoms. So we'll just move on now to slide 3. So I wasn't on slide 2 very long. I hope you liked my artwork there of trying to describe an upset inflammation, an upset central nervous system. I'm not renowned for my art skills, though I do apologise, but I thought red was a good signifier. So then we come on to stage 3 for me, which is the upset to the central nervous system and the vestibular system, if you want to treat them as one and the same, obviously causes VM. So it causes you to get what doctors, experts now diagnose as vestibular migraine, VM. But my theory still is that, yes, you'll get some symptoms which are because the vestibular system's upset, but I think there's other symptoms that we tag on to vestibular migraine, but they're actually upset to the central nervous system. So I would say, you can see I've listed quite a few of the famous symptoms on here. So I think I had breathing issues, which is on there, and I don't think an upset vestibular system would cause me to have a dodgy breathing. It just doesn't seem logical. It doesn't quite make sense to me. So for me, there has to be something else going on, and I think that it's because at the same time you're experiencing vestibular migraine, it's because your central nervous system got upset as well. So that causes some other funny symptoms that perhaps the vestibular system just wouldn't cause an upset to the vestibular system wouldn't cause, such as breathing. So that's why I put breathing down there, because it is one that I've experienced. And there's a range of other symptoms. So as I said, some of them are probably quite specific to upset with the vestibular system, such as derealization, photophobia, obvious one. But then some of them, as I say, I just don't think are a result of an upset vestibular system. I think it's wider, and it's an upset with the central nervous system. So in a way, you could sort of suggest that vestibular migraine is in fact itself a symptom of something wider, which is upset to your central nervous system, which was caused by inflammation. But I'm kind of running that there has been some kind of upset to the vestibular system in these scenarios. So yeah, other ones there, as we know, anxiety, depression. So I've said in many videos before, someone who gets some kind of vestibular disorder cannot help get anxiety and depression. It's because the vestibular system is very closely interlinked with the mood system. So please don't give anyone a hard time who's struggling with their anxiety when they've got VM. It's not that they're weak or can't cope. It's just that it's inevitable. It's like it's like breaking your leg and then expecting to not feel any pain in your ankle. They're just one and the same. What else have we got there? The feeling of being off balance, which is a common one, and then linked to that, obviously, vertigo, dizziness. So some people get more dizzy and feel vertigo. Then others, mine was more of an off balance feeling rather than the room swinging all the damn time, which must be awful. Obviously, people develop tinnitus. If I spelled that right, I'm not sure, but never mind. The feeling of having full ears. We've got there sensitive to weather. So I'm going to do a video on that actually. So this is something I've discussed with a couple of vestibular friends, really, that you can feel a bit weird when the seasons change. So I am going to do a separate video on that. So for me, I think it is a bit of not only a trigger, but also I think it's a bit of a symptom. So a symptom of vestibular disturbance is that you're more sensitive to the changes in the weather when the seasons change, but can also be a trigger. So which one is it? Don't know. Not going to probably come down either way on that, but it's something I will do another video on. I've got on there twitching, which is quite an unusual symptom, but some people have told me they've also had that. So mine was in my face, it was around my neck, and then kind of went into my face. Again, that's one where I would say, why would having a vestibular disturbance make your face twitch? Which again suggests to me there's something wider, which is the central nervous system at play here. And then I've got on there triple PD. So a big shout out to triple PD sufferers who are watching this. I have done a video on that fairly recently. Do check it out if you haven't. Triple PD, I've got as like a symptom of VM here in the central nervous system upset, which I actually think it is. And for me, triple PD is a kind of an end, not an end stage, but a post VM stage you can get to. So I think it's where people have had particularly bad vestibular episode, they then develop triple PD as a result. So one of the options obviously is you get better. Another option, you get going through remission. But unfortunately, another option or scenario you can get to after vestibular migraine is triple PD, which in itself is, as I said in that other video, it's something that can then also get better over time. But it's kind of like the extra time at a football match that gets added on after vestibular migraine. But it's horrible for people, and it must be such a bastard to have suffered with vestibular migraine than to be treated with triple PD as a result. But I think it's almost for me like it's a bit like a hangover from vestibular migraine, but a particularly horrible thing to end up with afterwards. So that's why I've stuck it on there. So that's my general theory really. And then I've just noted at the bottom there what is quite common to pretty much all vestibular migraine or disorder sufferers I speak to, and include myself in this. When my vestibular nerves were scanned, or when you have a hearing test as well, there's no signs of inflammation or damage to the vestibular system. So that again, I've put here, perhaps the upset to the vestibular system has already died down by the time it's scanned, which is perfectly plausible, could well have happened. Or perhaps the vestibular system itself was never upset. Perhaps it is the central nervous system that got upset, and then the vestibular system won't show any signs of upset because it's never actually been disturbed. So the symptoms you are experiencing have predominantly been brought on by upset to the central nervous system. Just theories, I don't know. That's a bit like sort of like a little intelligence gap, I suppose, there, really. We don't really know why the scans on the whole don't show anything, but it could be a number of explanations, i.e. sort of the swelling's already died down if there was any of the inflammation, or that actually the vestibular nerves are never really affected, and it's a bit of a myth that they ever were. But again, obviously, if you'd had a head injury and had the MRI scan, I think in that situation it would show obviously some damage, and that's why you're experiencing vestibular disorder or symptoms. So that's just the caveat I want to just put in there. So hopefully you found that useful. The 3 stages, as I said: inflammation, upset the central nervous system and or the vestibular system, then that causes VM, and perhaps also the upset to the central nervous system causes some of the symptoms we associate with vestibular migraine, when really they're not. They're just actually a result of your central nervous system getting messed up by inflammation. So I'm going to click back now, and I've reappeared. Yes, excellent. So I hope you found that useful. Tell me what you think in the comments. I really always do try and reply to every comment. I pretty much think I reply to every comment. It just sometimes take me a little bit longer because I'm obviously a working person and I can't always log on every day. So I try and do it at least once a week. I have noticed sometimes that people have put comments on, I'll go to reply to it, then I can't find the comment anymore. I don't know what that is or why that is. It might be that they've deleted the comment. It's up to you if you wanted to delete what you said, or whether they've deleted their account or something, I don't know. But if you have commented and I've not replied, it's not because I've ignored you at all. I will try and reply. It might just be that I've had that issue where I can't reply. Also, there was a big issue in the UK with Facebook Messenger a few weeks ago. So if people have been sending me messages in Facebook Messenger, if you're lucky enough to have found me on Facebook, I should just say, please don't be offended if I haven't replied. It just doesn't seem to work properly since that stage. So I hope you find that useful. Tell me what you think. It might be that as I said, it's just my theory. I'm no doctor, and it might be that I am completely barking up the wrong tree. But tell me what your theories are, and over time, hopefully I didn't want to say vestibular community because I kind of hate that phrase, but as sufferers together, hopefully we can put together quite a strong hypothesis and case as to what's going on with vestibular migraine. And who knows, that might be what cracks it, and that might be what eventually some doctors start looking at and helps them with their research, and because our ultimate goal is, of course, to figure it out so it can be treated properly and it doesn't cause the havoc, the upset, the sadness, the illness to people's lives that it does cause at the moment. So I'll leave it there, guys, and remember, as you were, you'll be again. I'll see you all soon.